process of updating. So if you could just disregard that paragraph, you'll see why as we go through the policy. So in our earlier presentations, we tried to modernize the existing 2018 policy, and that didn't really work out so well. So that's why we've taken a new approach to this. That 2018 version had a blurred distinction between council-approved policy and administrative procedure. So we think we've eliminated that, and it really did limit our flexibility for day-to-day operations. So I'm going to turn this over to Rachel Mead, who is our communications coordinator, and has really been the creator of the newly revised policy.
Rachel, thank you. So appreciate everybody taking the time to discuss the communications policy this evening. So we're here today to look at a newly revised comms policy as well as a social media policy. So what we're presenting to you today is a streamlined principle-based policy. It clearly defines the scope, roles, and responsibilities that are required of us in communications here at the municipality, and it reflects our current communications environment more succinctly than the current one in place does. What it's going to do is really support a consistent and coordinated messaging across the organization. So Heather's already touched on a bit of our previous approach, and this just kind of is a side-by-side comparison. So today we're looking at a streamlined principle-based policy, which is easy for staff to follow and implement. We're linking this to supporting policies, resources, and procedures, which is going to improve delivery and consistency. It's going to be flexible, easy to maintain. There's a clear separation now between policy versus operations. And it's designed to evolve with communication practices, so we don't need to keep reviewing this like biannually because things change so rapidly in the communications environment. So I'm hoping that everyone's had a chance to look at the communications policy. We haven't had any feedback, I don't think, up to this point. So yeah, we're open to discussion, hearing your suggestions and feedback on it. So we've got the communications policy itself, which links up to the social media policy, which has also been revised. And as you may have noticed, within the comms policy itself, there is an appendix which includes some related documents and links. So we have related policies, which is the social media policy, some accessibility standards for customer service, accountability, transparency, and corporate accessibility. There's a number of pertinent resources that we would rely on in communications in order to, operate effectively. A couple of them being code of conduct. So for employees and members of council, our corporate strategic plan. Obviously, a lot of our messaging is based on that strategic plan and the direction set by council. It links back to customer service standards that have been approved by council and help guide how we interact through online platforms. There's a new media relations reference guide. So this speaks to different spokespeople through the media. So that guide in itself is something that we can utilize internally in order to help us manage incoming media relations questions and allow us to kind of understand who speaks to what. Links back to our emergency response plan. Obviously, crisis communication is a big thing that we deal with in communications as well. So we're following that resource as well. Municipal brand guidelines approved by council, also something that we rely on heavily in communications in order to maintain consistency and clarity. And of course, the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection and Privacy Act is noted there as well. One related procedure that we have in there as well, Middlesex County and local municipalities have partnered in a joint multi-year accessibility plan, which is still in effect. So that's noted here as well. So where we go from here, Unless there's more discussion to be had, we would be looking for council approval on the two policies that we presented to, that we're discussing today. We would obviously have to build up some staff awareness and training around these policies because there are some differences. We're looking to also develop some procedures and resources which would help communication staff in their day-to-day operations. As you may be aware, we are growing our team. So we're going to have a communications assistant here soon, and we'd like to have these things kind of in place just to help give them a good onboarding experience. And so with that, we'd be working on the development of supportive internal procedures and resources. And I've given you some examples here. Website governance, internal communications, and community engagement are some of the things that are kind of on our radar to develop. So I'll open the floor. If anybody has any questions, suggestions, comment.
No, turn over, just comment, no, turn,
Yep.
I like the new form. I like the readability of it, and if you remember the previous one, was dense and a lot of black and white. This one was, very easy to read, it's easy to follow, so. Councilor Payne.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why the summer market would be operating independently when it's a function of the community services department, and the staff that run that are municipal staff. So why would that be excluded?
So you're referring to the social media policy? So I wouldn't say that it's excluded necessarily. What you're seeing there under authorized accounts, those are entities that are out there in the community now. They exist already. So when you see summer market, we're referring to the downtown market that currently has its own social media channels. So the downtown market has a Facebook page that community services manages, and our market assistant has a lot to do with that.
So would they still have to follow the policy and guidelines though, or are they exempt from that?
So what they're exempt from is like account approvals. So communications at the municipal level would be responsible for authorizing any new accounts that needed to be created. So for example, if another department came forward and wanted to create their own Facebook, it would need to go through municipal communications in order to authorize that. This is a good snapshot of how we're operating now. So fire services, they're running their own social media accounts right now. It doesn't go through municipal communications. They've got their own, we do coordinate on some levels. Safety services, the museum also running its own social media. So we've got a number of channels that are out there right now, and they're working on content and publishing content on a day-to-day. This doesn't exempt them from following the policy.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. So I had the same type of question when I read the social media. So police and municipal museum, they have their own boards. So I understand why they would have their own content, because that should be driven by their boards. But I'm not sure why fire services would be on their own or the summer market. I guess my preference would be to see that like included under your catch basin so that it's being properly vetted against all of the rules and regulations that are out there.
Councilor Faulkner, then Councilor Derbyshire.
So I'm gonna go to the media relations reference guide. And I know there was a lot of discussion about that members of council were further down the list. And now they're on the list before the CAO. So I'm just curious, when you look at this versus when there's an emergency, and in the emergency, it's identified as the head of council or the deputy mayor. Because I would be uncomfortable in a general sense of any member of council speaking on behalf of the municipality when maybe they're not involved in the in that core group that's guiding the emergency. So is that situation handled separately? And I have a second question about the students.
No problem. So in the event of an emergency, the emergency response plan takes over. And this is null and void.
And then in terms of members of council putting out their own release, say maybe on their own personal Facebook page, identifying themselves as a counselor, does that fall then under our guidelines as to what content they can put out? Because sometimes there's opinions put out that aren't what follows the decisions of council.
So this is if you were responding on behalf of the municipality. I would say if you're looking to share municipal content on your own, then it would be a safe bet to share the municipal content,
Right.
right?
Yep.
I think that you guys do have a code of conduct in place. I haven't read through the entire code of conduct, and I'm certainly not an expert on it, but
That's what we guided in its place then. Okay.
I would imagine.
Yes, Derbyshire.
I think this is kind of in the vein of the question I was gonna ask. The report says that we are not designated spokespeople, but then the media guide says we are designated spokespeople.
That's the paragraph that I asked you to disregard. That was an error in the report.
Oh, that we are,
Yes, yeah.
that we are not spokespeople.
Know that you are included in the media relations reference guide.
Yeah.
Because we recognize the role for elected officials in media. And, we're often asked for, or media often contacts council for their opinion as counselors.
Right, so in the media guide, then you're more referencing if you direct the media to us or the media comes to us,
That's correct, right?
right?
Yes,
Not the social media is a different
that's right.
That's right.
thing altogether. So your social media is your own. And you can do what you want with it.
I would just be
Yeah,
I would just be mindful that if it's a municipal communication, so you're either responding as yourself or on behalf of the municipality. In some cases, I could give you an example of where you might be communicating on behalf of the municipality. If we were all at an event together and someone from the radio approached me and said, I'd like to speak to one of the councilors about this municipal event. That's the type of situation where this falls under. So yes, of course, if the counselor's on site and we're agreeable, then we could have you do a media interview with the radio station about the municipal event. That's the type of thing that this is.
So I'll give you the example then. The radio gets a hold of me and says, talk to me about farm safety. Right? That's through you. Somebody has sent them in my direction to talk about farm safety, which first year I was here, Strauss did. Now say I go on Facebook and say, remember everybody, farm safety, blah, 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 blah. But it's on Councillor Derbyshire's Facebook page. Is that still following code of conduct rules? Like, I guess,
Yeah.
if you are running a Facebook page as a counselor, okay, say I'm running it just as Brian Derbyshire.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them don't say, like, I'm not on Facebook, so I don't have one. But I'll use the mayor, for example, because you do have, you have the mayor and you have Colin, you have two. So if he posts something on his personal Facebook page, but it is related to stuff going on here, does that follow the same code of conduct, or does that only count when you represent yourself as the mayor in this case?
No, I think it's the same.
Again, it'd be both, right?
Yeah.
And you both, you have other, you never stop being an elected official. You never really have your own personal opinion, so I'll use mine if you don't like. If I were to post something on my personal page, it was counter to the code of conduct, that it wouldn't get me out of integrity commissioner jail by saying I said it on my personal page. You're still
But, and I guess, are we clear on that?
I
can read this.
Clear on it too.
Yeah, lost clear on
Laws
it. Yeah,
on it.
different, yeah, no.
Go ahead.
So in that same vein, it's very clear on the code of conduct violations, but what it's not clear on is if we put an opinion out that dissents with council's rules. So say council makes a decision, we pass a bylaw, and then we want to list why we voted against it or something along those lines. Even though it's clear that it's our opinion, we're not saying it's municipality's position.
Yeah.
How are we able to post that?
Yeah,
Um,
so just to answer your question, it does specify in here, so may express individual views as elected representatives.
But I thought we were just told that paragraph was coming in. Is that
No,
the
no,
document that the
no.
paragraph was coming in?
I just asked that you disregard the paragraph and comments under the strategic priorities report. Because I talked about it.
Okay, because
Being
in the
removed from the-
communications, it said that, ensure communications reflect and are consistent with council decisions and direction. The municipality's strategic priorities through policies, visual identity, and corporate-wide messaging. So there in the draft communications policy, it says that, we cannot say anything that is inconsistent with a council decision. Which is directly opposite what you just said.
So where are you seeing?
It's right under purpose.
The draft 2026 communications policy. Under alignment and
I think I wonder, Greg, if it's different between interpreting the decision and or disseminating your personal opinion, right? So, you know,
Well,
you're gonna make up, right? You said you're.
it comes down to words and intent. Like we pass a lot of bylaws that have words and they don't have the same intent. So if the bylaw doesn't matter because we're gonna say that's not the intent. We did the same thing when we did, what was the one we just did with, sign bylaw? We weren't gonna enforce the sign bylaw for a bunch of stuff and it's okay because we're not actually going to enforce that. Like if we're gonna put bylaws forward and the words aren't gonna match what we actually want to enforce, like it becomes a lot of discretion based stuff and that's,
The next paragraph after that.
sure.
So after the purpose there, we have the scope. It says this policy applies to all those responsible for developing, delivering, and or approving internal and external communications on behalf of the municipality. So is that where we're thinking that there's,
No, it says, it's like it talks about municipal communications and then you're talking about as a council with Facebook page. That's a municipal communication. And then it says alignment and consistency right under that. It's on page 2 of the draft policy. And then it says we have to promote a consistent report to share responsibility and communications across the organization. So it basically says that if a council has a dissenting opinion, we can't say it.
Yeah, that shouldn't be the intent. Can we just get, before it comes back to council, just get some clarity on it and look at it? I understand what Greg's saying, by the way. I want to make sure. Go ahead. Paul.
I think with these policies, all of them that we are creating right now, remember, as we sit here as a group, we can all agree, oh yeah, this is the way it is and this is the way it is. We're gonna change, that group's gonna change, and somebody might read this different.
You need clarity.
So, so when we do these, like, it has to be laid out so that, you know, it isn't, it could go this way or it might go this way. We all know what it means right now, but in 10 years or 8 years, will they still read that the same way?
Things will change by then.
So, council, probably, I just would get some clarity on that for council to look at the verbiage.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it's probably written fine. I think what would be important is, and there's no point doing it before the next council, is just the training on the policy itself and what it means and what you can and can't do.
Not if the words don't match the intent. Like, we can't not change words that don't match intent.
We'll get clarity on it. It's a good point. They'll bring it back to clarity. We're just giving ideas here tonight, right, Greg?
I have another question.
Yeah, and then also Brandon.
Sorry, Councilor Brennan. Just the branding policy, that's with the attachments. It says it's from 2018. Didn't we just do that or is that
We
not?
did do that.
So we're referring to the 2018 branding policy while we're writing
We'll
the
update
set
that.
of the new one? But I don't know what the differences are between the two to represent the communications, but if we're, like, we shouldn't be referencing an old document.
Councilor Brennan.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's clear that the communication policy establishes and something that I think has been true for a long time. No single counselor speaks on behalf of all of council. We have our own opinions about council business, and we can probably comment on the issues that were involved in council coming to a decision. But once council makes a decision, no single counselor is there to authorize to speak on behalf of council. I would think that the head of council would be authorized to speak on behalf of council when a decision has been made. But, you know, if someone phones up John Brennan, counselor, and asks me to speak on behalf of the municipality, I'll just tell them I don't. I don't speak on behalf of the municipality. The only person who speaks on behalf of the municipality, I would say, should be the head of council, because council is the institution that has the authority to do municipal business. Individual councilors don't. So, you know, when, you know, the communication policy, I think, really should establish the fact that councilors individually don't speak on behalf of council. The head of council or the designated, someone who's been designated to speak on behalf of council is the person who's speaking on behalf of the municipality. But I'm just a pipsqueak. I'm just a counselor. I don't get to say what's going on in the municipality. Council does. So I think we have to establish how the authority for speaking on behalf of council is established, which is effectively speaking on behalf of the municipality.
Go ahead.
So this policy also states that the mayor, the way it's written, can only speak in favor of council decisions. So even if the mayor votes against something, it says you have to only speak in favor of that council decision as well.
Yep.
So it's,
Well, I would argue that once council has made a decision, that is the municipal point of view. And no matter what anybody on council says, the mayor could say that he didn't vote for something.
no, that's the policy says that he can't speak into a message that's different from what the municipality decided. That's how the policy is written. Those are the words.
What does it say? What, you read the words?
I'll have to look it up again, but when I read it.
Well, then I would like to know the words then, because if you're making that claim, then that's something we have to look at. But I mean, but a mayor, once any member of council, once council has decided, and council is the authority. That is the municipal, that's the municipal position, no matter whether I agree with it or not. So I can't speak on, I can't.
Municipal.
Yeah, so we need words that I think make that crystal clear. So no one member of council thinks that they can speak on behalf of council, because they can't.
Here, right here. The mayor provides commentary on council decision, priorities and public discretion, represents the position of council as a whole where appropriate.
Where are you looking at that?
It's on the columns, media relations.
Yeah.
It's right above where it says.
There's nothing in there that says he can't say his own personal
He
opinion.
can
When you
explain,
take that together with the previous one that says everything has to align, it doesn't. take
Yeah, but he can say that.
he can say he voted against it.
And that's in this room. That's what, how you're interpreting it. That's not what the words in the document say.
But it just did compared to what you read me.
So we'll
There's
get
nothing,
clarity.
there's
We
nothing
need
from him
we
saying,
need clarity on
We
this.
need
I
clarity.
voted against it, but the council decision was this, so this is not.
Exactly.
this-
Yes.
And I respect the will of council.
Yeah,
Councilor
and I-
Burgess, you had your turn.
the authority of council.
Yeah, the whole policy itself, the way I kind of read what we're doing is we're more setting it up so that staff has a guideline to go out and essentially be, like, we're arguing here about what council can do,
Hmm.
but that's a small portion
Precisely, yes.
of this policy.
Absolutely.
This policy here is actually saying that the CAO essentially runs all communication. We're basically giving the CAO the authority to do whatever they want to do to a certain extent. I think that, to me, puts a lot of. I realize with day-to-day operations, that's great. That's, that's probably where it should be. When we get down to, do we want to put this on about, this crossing or that crossing or anything that. Would it. A lot of times, some of the things we get or see are on there before council knows about it. Or someone's brought it to our attention that this is on the website. Did you receive this? Did you get that? Or we get it the same day of. Some communications would be nice to know ahead of time so that we can kind of process and see before it ends up on certain things. And it is getting better. It's not, don't get me wrong. When I first started, we didn't get anything. So it is getting better on the public notices and all that kind of things. What I don't want to do is turn. It feels like we're just turning a lot over for staff to run. And I'm not saying that. Critical of staff. When we talk about who makes the decisions and who does stuff, it is council. So when we create policies that turn more and more of our authority and our stuff over for it to be run as a day-to-day operation, we lose the governance over it that we have. And if you don't want it, that's fine. If you think I'm in the weeds and I don't need it, that's okay too. I just am saying, the more stuff we give away, the more stuff doesn't make it back to for a council decision, the more it then looks like it's staff's, not council's decision.
Same.
I get where you're going with that. However, I think that we're all in charge. When we sit here as a group, we talk as a group, we go back and forth because we agree or we don't agree, or we throw all our opinions out. And then at some point we come up with decisions whether or not it's voted all together or not. But I don't want to be in charge of the day-to-day. I personally don't want to be in charge of the day-to-day social media or communications, because truly, I don't work here. I work here for the community that voted me in. I work here with all of you because this is what we do. We work with staff, but I am not staff. So I'm not here from 8 in the morning till 4:30 at night doing all the things that they're doing. So when you're putting out media and communications and all the things that you're doing, do we want to be notified? Yes, we do. Do we want to be a part of it? Do we want to be sending it out and creating it? I don't think we should, because we're not here. I don't know what's going on all the time. Well, actually, I don't. I don't know what's going on in Walter's department unless I go and knock on his door and say, "Hey, Walter, I need a hand." It would be the same with Rob. Like, I don't think that is a good responsibility for any of us. It's too much. Otherwise, we shouldn't be counselors. We should actually be staff. So that's my opinion only, but I think that's too much for me in the weeds. And I like the fact that we're coming up with these things. We do need some clarity on it. And that's okay. That's okay. That's why you brought it to us. And we all, again, have our own opinions, but we all have our own social media or not accounts. And we all speak to people, whether it's online or on our phones or on whatever, or out in the community. I just don't think we want to get too deep into it. That stresses me out because I don't think that we should have the authority to do that. Just my opinion.
Okay, one more if it's new, then we'll move on to the next one. Do you have enough just for Rachel? Does he have kind of enough to build
We'll
something?
provide some further
Okay,
clarification.
Councillor Falcon, then.
I was just gonna agree. I 100% agree with Sandy. She said it very well. The only thing I would add would be that if we wanted more authority over communications, it's gonna slow everything down so much that the information would get out way too late. And as far as the things that you're saying, the same time as the public. We'll take, for example, the Knights of Columbus building on Oak Street, right? We would have seen that at the same time the neighbors did, right? Because we can't stop applications. We don't get to have a yay or nay on when somebody puts an application in. And once that application is made, it follows its own set of timelines that is governed by the province. So to say that we should have on something like that that's controversial, because realistically, that's what we're worried about, right? The controversial stuff, the stuff we're gonna get phone calls on. You know, we don't get to have a say as to whether or not that application goes in or not. That is purely the applicant's decision. And so for us to have to say we want approval on every communication that goes out, I think the policy is written fine, just needs some opinion on that one piece. And staff can have direction, which I think they follow very well from council.
Okay, but let's move on to the next one.
One.
Is this something new?
It is. So just with all the issues that we've had that we talked about, most of them have been concerning council. What if we treated this similar to our code of conduct policy, where we had a separate one for staff and a separate one for council? I think all the stuff for staff, we really haven't had any issues with. The issues have only been the council and their position and what they have to do. So that would be my suggestion, just make two separate policies. And then council has its own, and if we want to debate the council one, I haven't seen any issues with the staff ones yet. But that's my thought, just to make sure it goes through smoothly. And if we want to stop something when it comes to council, then we can stop the council and let the staff one go.
Okay, right on. All right, let's move on here. Walters. Next is the draft electric scooter and cargo assistant bicycle plan. Let's receive that one for information. Councillor Felton, second, Councillor Brennan, all in favor?
Great, thank you.
The short version, Holden.
What's that?
The short version of.
Yeah, I'll just kind of give a little brief history there. So this is an outstanding motion from council, back in October 2025 to bring a report of a draft bylaw working with Strathroy-Caradoc Police in Middlesex County, following the Ontario e-scooter pilot program regulations. So that's the purpose of this report or meeting tonight that I'm presenting. So we did meet with Strathroy-Caradoc Police, Middlesex County earlier this year, and we found it was beneficial to follow the City of London's bylaw, just based on, they've been in the pilot program since March of 2023. Understanding that Strathroy-Caradoc is different than the City of London and our bicycle infrastructure isn't there. We wanted to make sure it was clear in the bylaw that the use of electric scooters and bicycles are to be as far right as possible on our roadways. And that's mentioned in section 4.1B. Other highlights of the bylaw in front of you, we go through the age of no person under the age of 16 should be riding electric kick scooters or the cargo power assisted bicycle. If you're under 18, you are required to wear a helmet through the Highway Traffic Act. I'll mention that no person should operate an electric kick scooter or cargo power assisted bicycle on a sidewalk, on a hiking trail, or on a roadway with a posted speed of 50 kilometers an hour or more. So just so council's aware, this bylaw and these regulations, it's from the Ontario regulations. These aren't just numbers or rules that are made up to 24 kilometers an hour. This is all from Ontario regulations. So that's how we kind of drafted this bylaw, and we did work with the City of London's transportation team, kind of got some of their feedback as what they've gone through the last 2.5, 3 years, which was very helpful. So I'll leave it there for now and open it up to council discussion. And if there's modifications or council wants to see something change, just, yeah.
So I'm gonna open it up, but I bet the deputy mayor is gonna want to chime in on this one, because at the end of the day, it's gonna fall on the police to enforce it. I think our bylaw department is more complaint driven now, so our bylaw officers aren't going to be driving around looking for people who are offside on the policy, so it's gonna fall on to more or less police partners. They're about their discretion to stop somebody and enforce the bylaw, right? So and I don't know this, I'm not putting it in the spot. Did the police have an opinion about the enforceability of it?
They weren't No, like there wasn't a yes or no as if they were going to enforce it. It was just, there are challenges around it, as if you're under, and Deputy Mayor may correct me here, but I think if you're under the age of 16, you have to summon them to court. Those are some of the challenges that we might see, because they're not the legal age to give them a ticket. So recently in the city of London, they have changed to ticket the parents. I believe that came out last week. So there are ways around it, but I can't speak on behalf of the police and their enforcement plan for this.
Okay, well, we'll put it up for Councillor Pammer.
Why was electric bicycles excluded in the policy?
Like e-bikes.
Yeah,
So e-bikes they are deemed a vehicle in the Highway Traffic Act already. There's no pilot program for e-bikes.
so these e-bikes that are going up and down on the sidewalk. What do we tell people about that? Because that's the complaints I hear
Mhm.
and what I see. It's those electric bikes on the sidewalks.
Which they would. I didn't look into e-bikes specifically, but if
But
I
in
would,
your summary, it does, we asked to include e-bikes.
are you, sorry,
Under comments, we said here that we staff engaged, including electric bikes and electric kick scooters. And I believe that's what we asked for when we had the discussion, but then now the policy just defines it as electric kick scooter, cargo power assisted bike, commercial cargo. There's no just electric bike here in the policy.
yeah, I apologize. The motion I read didn't, it was staff to work with Strathroy-Caradoc Police and Middlesex County to develop a draft bylaw that aligns with the requirements of the Ontario e-scooter pilot program. So I didn't get into electric bicycles.
They seem to be the problem though. I mean, the scooters, just this year so far, what I've noticed is it's more the electric bikes have taken over. I think maybe last year it was more the scooters, but now it's the electric powered bikes. And so question for me is, well, how, like, you're gonna create a policy but exclude that section? You know, what do we tell people when they call to complain about the electric bikes on the sidewalks?
Maybe I can help.
Is there an answer there?
Well, so I pulled up the regulation. So you're looking at 141-21 in Ontario regulations. So cargo powered assisted bicycle includes the e-bike. By definition, I believe.
Only if it has a basket.
What's that?
Only if it has a basket,
Uh,
because it has to carry cargo. That's where the cargo part comes in. I read that too yesterday.
yeah, I don't know if it means it has to. I'm not a fan of any of these regulations, to tell you the truth, but
Question, Mike.
so if you take the basket off of it, is it no longer an e-bike? I don't.
It's a lot of.
Like, it's not a cargo e-bike.
Steve's got a question for you in your official
Yeah.
capacity.
So the e-bike, Walter, correct me if I'm wrong, e-bike has its own separate classification under the Highway Traffic Act.
That's correct. It's deemed.
So, I think the issue with the e-bikes has been that when that regulation was written, they all look like little motorcycles and classic scooters, but now the technology has gotten so good
Yeah.
that they look like normal bicycles.
It's true.
But Mike, if they were regulated under the e-bike provincial guidelines, that would already give the police the power to ticket them if they weren't following those guidelines.
Yeah, I'll look it up. While you guys are talking, I'll look it up and I'll have an answer for you.
This is just for input, so if you have to change something, you change it.
If it's covered somewhere else, that's fine. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure we've covered that part because it is an issue.
So I'm reading the part on the bottom of page 1 where it says the corporation of municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc is deemed to be in the public interest to prohibit and regulate, and it goes on and says that we think it's a good idea. So I guess when we discussed this in council before, the question that we had was when we passed a bylaw, we wanted to participate in the pilot program, because before we can put this bylaw in, we have to have a bylaw or record a bylaw for our participation in the pilot program. And that was one of the things we had to look into, but I didn't see in your report when we did that.
We haven't done that. So council passes a bylaw and then that bylaw is sent to the ministry to say that we want to opt into their pilot project.
We'll have to do that before we can pass this.
No, we gotta do
That's
this.
how you pass the
This
bylaw.
comes first.
Why would we? Okay,
That-
that's different from what we were told before. I thought we had to be in the pilot before we could spend time to, but I guess. All right,
So
so the other question on that is, what are the insurance requirements? There's insurance requirements for cars, any of these things. What are the insurance requirements? There's nothing clear about insurance being required.
zero.
Says in regulations.
Yeah.
Is there any ability to have insurance on it or requirements or?
That sounds like a provincial regulation. Steve,
So what happens if we don't pass that, just that we want to participate?
So I was reading through this today, so my understanding is if we don't have a municipal bylaw, they're prohibited in our municipality. That's my understanding of how I read it, and I'd have to pull.
So if we don't want them, we don't pass it and they're just not allowed. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, so I
You own one.
I own one, yep. And I remember calling the chief of police to ask about whether or not it was allowed. And he said, yeah, it's a 5-year pilot program or better, but irregardless of whether I own one or not. If we pass the bylaw that says I can't use it, then I can't use it. And so right now, I haven't used it in over a year. So it's not like I'm living on it day by day. But my question, first off, and I believe that Walter's answer was that it's a provincial power. Was that, how can we ban something that's so readily available for sale virtually everywhere? Like there are kids all over town on e-scooters that have been sold at Walmart, Canadian Tire. How do we say suddenly that, oh, you can't use those? Or, I just don't know how we get around that issue. I also asked, e-skateboards is not on that list. So I did the same answer about the e-bikes, is that wasn't what was included in the thing, but the issue with the e-skateboards is probably the same as with the scooters, is how fast can you go down the sidewalk on one of those?
Sorry, just one thing there, so I also looked at that, so skateboards, there's regulations for the cargo power assisted bicycles and the e-scooters. There is no regulation or prevent, like e-skateboards aren't,
It's free reign.
yeah.
So there's that first part. I cannot get my head around it about how we're gonna suddenly say anyone under 16 can't ride one when there's hundreds of them in Strathroy already. But that's already a law, if I'm correct, on the province's side. So that's not on us. So at least I can justify that.
Yeah, right now, nobody can run one in our municipality. Until we pass this, it's illegal for anybody to have one.
Anywhere, anyone under 16, right?
Anyone, period, not even under 16.
Like if the municipality doesn't have a bylaw in place, no one can, they're prohibited here.
Yeah. You can't do it. You're over 16, you couldn't do one then.
Right.
Because we don't have a bylaw.
Good thing I'm not using.
Question for you, Walter. The 5-year pilot program, when did it start?
I think 2023, I'm not 100% sure, but
So this program would end in 28.
they've extended to 2029.
Yeah.
I think November 2029 is the.
I remember some kind of extension.
So we've been 3 years of having nothing.
No, it had to be prior because I asked Mark before I had it the last election. So it's at least
You did.
prior to 2022.
I think originally 2022 to 2027, and they've extended it to 2029 now. And when I was looking online, it looks like there's 16 municipalities that have opted in. So it's a lot of bigger cities.
So there's only 16 that have London bylaws. So we would be like the 17th or 18th.
Based on what I've read online, yeah, I don't want you to 100% quote that,
Yeah, no,
but what I found online is there's 16 municipalities that have a municipal bylaw for e-scooters.
So and there's 440 municipalities and less than 20 of them have these bylaws. And everywhere else they're illegal and everyone else is using. So if the
Well, go ahead, 'cause I might agree with you.
if the chief of police He's not
He's not.
here. I was just trying to say, I couldn't see everyone who's there. If we're already not enforcing it and they're already 100% illegal, what's gonna change if we put a bylaw in? Are we, like, if we're not going to enforce it, what's the point of putting it there to have another bylaw?
I think there might be an educational value. I think what we want to have is clarity about how the sidewalks can be safely shared between pedestrians and other forms of transport, and which ones are more properly located on the roadway.
Well, we don't need an unenforced bylaw to do that.
No, I'm just saying, yes, what's the point? I think it's largely educational, like, I mean, enforcement's gonna be tough. But I think if we pass a bylaw, the bylaw itself will provide some publicity and provide an educational component that can begin used in maybe through the elementary schools or something where kids just get educated about what the bylaw is. And they learn that there's the proper way to use your e-scooter and, the police are going to be enforcing it. But I think that's the only value. It's going to be hard as hell to enforce.
No, Sandy.
But that wouldn't work because if they're under 16, they can't do it. And you'd have to just, the education piece would just be high school. And
Like the last
Yeah,
few
well,
years.
maybe it is.
yeah, you know what I mean?
But I mean,
I'm
but-
only saying that just because this is a lot of work for the police department. So the police department is already doing all these safety features for all the school systems, for all the things that go on. And I mean, I don't have a decision one way or the other because in my head, this is super messy and wow. But
It's not a problem of our making.
yeah,
Well,
exactly. It's always frustrating to me that this gets dropped in our laps from above. But I mean, the police department can't go out and start doing all of the, we give them more jobs to do. We're giving them,
So they already have a job, and I'll concede Greg's point. That's an interesting stat. 18, I think it's 421, because
Yeah, it's 400 and something.
400. Go ahead.
So, just so you know, you're talking about three different things under three different regulations, so I found this. So e-bikes, my correction, is under regulation 369 of 2009. That goes back a long time. So power assisted bicycle, e-bike, power assisted has to be by way of a battery. It can't be by way of a little gas engine, by the way. Those are allowed, and then you're just under the Highway Traffic Act, no license, no insurance, no permit, of course, speed regulated. Strangely enough, when you just look at the definition of it, has to look like a conventional bicycle and have pedals that work at all time. And appearance that does not resemble a motor scooter or motorcycle. All those ones that look like a little scooter, all the ones that look like little motorcycles, those are all illegal.
Except they all had pedals.
No, but
According to
a pedal-driven bicycle of conventional exposed fork and frame bicycle design. A bicycle. Okay, and appearance that does not resemble a motor scooter or motorcycle. So that's been in place since 2009, and these things are running rampant on the street. Now we have this new cargo assist or cargo, which I honestly have no idea what it is. And then these scooters, those you have to opt into the plan. So originally the e-bikes were brought in under the Highway Traffic Act under a regulation. They are allowed. And there's a bunch of stuff that you have to do, helmets and all of that type of stuff, okay? The scooters and these cargo things, the cargo definition matches what I just read. It had a carrier on it for moving cargo around, so they must use them in Toronto and stuff. I'm suspecting. I've never seen them here. These little e-cars, you see those little, I was behind one today on the street, looks like a little mini car, illegal, not allowed. So if you want to put in the scooters like Steve drives around or rides around, scooters stand up on it, one person has a handlebar style steering, it's all defined. We have to opt into the program. So my question would be, much like yours, Greg, why? This is a test project by the province. I said it at the time they did it, and I maintain it today. It's foolish. might as well just put golf carts on the roads at under 50 kilometers an hour and just let all people will figure it out for themselves, right? We're gonna play bumper cars out on the street. Because that's what it's gonna turn into. That's what it's turning into now. I hope the province goes away with this entire idea. But by not putting the bylaw in, we're just pushing it back over to the province and saying, this is your mess and you figure this out, because it's not worth our time, in my opinion.
Provincial legislation.
Let the province deal with it under the Highway Traffic Act and do what they want to do, and we just don't opt in.
So I agree. It's the provinces, but also SCPD. It's a policing issue right now, right? This is the real thing.
But there are lots here for them to deal with.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We don't need a bylaw.
No, we don't need a bylaw.
So without the bylaw, e-scooter, like so much of this stuff is gone. And I mean, the difficulty is, and they don't probably have the manpower to do it, but anything that doesn't look like a conventional bicycle, gone. And then the conventional bicycles that are proper e-bikes, helmets and all of that type of stuff, all the stuff that I have up in front of me right now. Lots of legislation in front of them all ready to deal with. They do not need a bylaw. Honestly, you're not going to enforce it under a bylaw, as Walter had said. It's cumbersome at best to deal with anybody under the age of 16. So if you're going to go that far down the line, you're going to do it under provincial regulation.
And we can't do it with this new side. I would suggest we just let this die and don't bring it back to council.
I would agree. I don't think bring a motion here tonight, but I would just maybe think about letting it die on the line. That give you a little bit of insight. Yes.
Well, I would just say that if that is the direction of council at some point, then there needs to be some massive communication.
That's where it's going.
Because holy mackerel, there's a lot of them out there.
And you know what? Someone's gonna get hurt.
Well, yeah, but it's
What I saw this weekend was absolutely frightening.
Well,
Someone is going to
my
get
walking
hurt.
around
My
town.
walking around town. It's
kid was doing
frightening.
35, probably 35 kph down the sidewalk on Head Street.
So what do we want to do? Do you want police to arrest kids then? Because that's with.
Well, you don't have to arrest them. They can talk to them and talk to their parents.
Well, that's a policing thing, right? That's not for us.
Right, I know.
They can do it already.
Yeah.
Right.
And the province needs to take action.
They do.
And so we need to talk to our provincial member and say, we need action on this. Thank you very much. Okay, and maybe if enough MPPs hear that, something might happen.
Probably one of those type of letters that we could formulate at council and deliver to the minister of,
Explain why we didn't put in a bylaw and say it's provincial legislation.
I think you got enough there, Walter, to maybe just let it. Sure. Thank you. Next is the encroach.
Rob has a question. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, just based on, because it's on our action list of motions from council, that when the clerk brings the next summary of motions, that maybe that would be from the list.
Yes. Yes.
Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Okay. The encroachment bylaw. Who gets out? Nothing. Motion to receive this along with information. Councilor Hippel. Councilor Lewis, favor, motion carries. Gentlemen, the overview.
So, this is, a overdue report from 2024. So we've, with the change in, the department, we're trying to clean up those, outstanding items, and this is one of those. So this would have been brought to council back, I want to say it was early 2024, and, it was sent to strategic priorities. I understand that there was an in-camera portion to this as well, at one point. So we'll try to stay away from that, because we're in open at the moment. So, Ben and his team have pulled together the bylaw that's in front of you. There is, council has the authority to approve or disapprove or not approve, bylaw encroachment agreements and so on, because that was one of the big items that was identified during, the first presentation, was that council wanted to retain that decision-making power. So staff would present a report with a recommendation along with an encroachment agreement and then council would take it from there. Ben and his team have gone a step further with regards to reviewing the bylaw, but they've also in the council report identified a fee structure in which to recoup some of the costs associated with running the program, as well as it costing something for those that are encroaching upon on municipal property. So it doesn't get forgotten. And they have to have, it's an annual agreement that needs to be reviewed. So so I'll leave it to Ben. One other thing, apologize, May 11th, 2026, not May 11th, 2020. We would not be in this room today if it was May 11th, 2020. It's just a date on the report. All the eyes that it went past, we missed the date, so.
Any questions?
So on that, and I'm going to, there were a number of addresses. And I'm going to talk about not a specific address, but there's a number of addresses in the closed meeting we talked about where there was people who had built things that went over the property lines or encroached on access points. Some of them were significant renovations. This bylaw seems very permissive, is that we'll find them, they'll pay more money, and then they can keep them. I didn't see anything, or not a lot, that would talk about if it restriction access and remove it, because council actually made direction to have staff tell the residents to remove a couple of those encroachments, and I don't believe that's been done in 2 years. So
Not to speak about what went on in camera, there was a legal opinion for that. That was provided to council at that in-camera meeting, which strongly encouraged that staff come back with an encroachment agreement to enter into with those landowners. So that there was a legal agreement provided at that in-camera meeting.
Thank you. So we understand why this is here. Do we understand how this could possibly affect rural Strathroy-Caradoc? So I farm probably 1,000 feet of your encroachment on the roadway or encroachment on the roadway. I cut the grass on probably, I don't know, 8,000 feet of that. Here, it doesn't state that we're exempt from that. It says if this is that, I need a permit. So I would have to come to you then and say, I'm farming this many feet of your land. I'm going to apply and I'm going to get it, right? Or not, or whoever makes the decision. I guess that is my question. Now that I know that this bylaw is in effect and that it's here, I know I'm farming your land because I don't want the weeds and I don't want to cut all that grass. So, and I'm not the only one. I'm just one farmer doing this.
Well, even to add that, I live out in the country and I cut about a quarter acre of municipal grass just because I don't want it on the outside of my fence.
Same.
So,
But it does talk about that we're really not to be doing anything.
So I also cut living in town.
Yeah.
Grass. That
Yep.
is not my property, but it is the right of way of the municipalities, right? So that's understand. We're not expecting everyone to come forward looking for an encroachment agreement in that respect. So we can take those comments, back and see how we put that language into.
farm field would be different on that one, for sure, though, because that's different than cutting grass.
Sure it is, but we can look at seeing if there's ways that we can put some language around to address those concerns. The other thing is there's nothing wrong if a farmer is farming municipal land, let's say, pull out an encroachment agreement, the staff write a report to council with a recommendation, and council makes the decision to approve or deny the encroachment agreement. And council also has the ability to say, we're not going to charge for this, right? So everything is in your hands.
But you got a whole bunch of work on agreements that have gone on for 100 years. I've cut your grass just like they've cut grass. You're now putting in, if your point is you don't want this happening in the urban areas, then let's make a distinction between in the urban areas, we don't want you building here, here, and here. we will make exceptions for you cutting and maintaining and keeping weeds at bay, you know. Because what I was thinking was, well, I've cut your grass, maybe I'll send you a bill. You know, or we're gonna have how many other people that we're gonna need 18 more road workers to cut all the road grass that we're no longer cutting. Like,
And as I said, allow us to come back, put some new verbiage into the bylaw that addresses all of that. So that is an excellent suggestion.
perfect. And the other thing is, I mean, I know we're using these sources. We're using London, Kitchener, Windsor, Ottawa, Oakville, Sarnia. I think any of them have rural. Ottawa has rural land included.
Lots of it.
So London probably does a little bit too. Go ahead, Craig.
So the same thing when we're talking about, and this is more for residential properties, is one of the biggest issues we have with encroachments is people who buy a ravine lot and their lot ends because of the conservation authority, but then they start mowing the grass and they put in a playground and then they extend their fence. If our point is just, like, if we're gonna be permissive and we're not gonna ask them to remove things, which is what the legal opinion said we should do, that gets into some issues. Well, but if we don't stop the other ones are gonna be current and have stuff there too. Like, the bylaw reads as being permissive and just setting an agreement. And if we're gonna go into conservation area, or we're gonna go into land that's, say it's a farmer's field, like, look at all the subdivisions that found farmer's fields now, or there's a creek that runs through, or.
Steve.
So to me, the difference is, you know, it says occupying, right? So you're not occupying the municipal. If we had to do work on it, there's nothing obstructing our to do work on it, right? As opposed to someone putting up a fence and a shed, play structure. Like if the person's keeping all that stuff on their own property, I suppose the issue is, should they be cutting the grass? But if they're dumping their stuff on somebody else's property, that's a problem. But if they're inhibiting the use of the owner's property by actually putting physical obstructions on it, to me, that's a key issue. And I don't know, is it written that way or no?
That's how I have it viewed, is that it's for, like, if you're cutting grass, there's nothing that stops you from cutting municipal grass.
Conservation area grass, because that's one of the other things, the conservation area doesn't want you to do stuff.
Are we talking lands owned by the Conservation Authority? Or are we talking about our lands that fall within their authority?
We have our land and then it's the authority that people are cutting and using as part of their backyards.
Right, so, again, like, if they're cutting it, it'd be like cutting, in my opinion, would be like cutting your front boulevard, which is still municipal property, correct?
But in a conservation area?
Conservation Authority.
So they would not like that?
No one's allowed to cut the conservation area. It has to remain in its natural state.
But that was one of the issues that we had with the encroachments. We were talking about that, is people were cutting back in an area that was naturally environmentally protected and they're cutting it, they can get their lawn.
Yeah.
Right. So if the conservation authority contacted you, said, don't do that, are you gonna keep doing it or are you gonna stop?
They're probably gonna keep doing it.
Do we enforce the conservation regulations?
No person shall erect, place or maintain or cause or permit to be erected, placed or maintained on an encroachment of any kind of municipal lands or on any right of way or easement in favor of the municipality, except where they're permitted to do so in accordance with this bylaw. If the property is ours, we will tell the folks to stop cutting municipal land into a woodlot, as an example. A lot of the woodlots that back onto conservation areas is operated by the Conservation Authority. The Conservation Authority would reach out to the owners potentially and say, you're not permitted to do that. I'll use the woodlot in Saxtonville Estates. That's municipal woodlot. A lot of the encroachment that we had was sheds. We had a zip line. We had people pushing out their, clearing out, making grass, and we've pulled all that back. Even without this bylaw specifically, we asked people to remove their items, and we did that, and that's happened. We had some issues on Parkview Crescent. There's a farmer's field that backs out and we've got a right of way that strips through there. We also requested people to move properties that they built onto their own and people, when they're asked to move it, generally will do that. There are some items, such as the ones that are, I'm gonna say, foundational, that have been, lots of money put into them, are the ones that where you're going to be looking for an encroachment agreement, where it's not so much practical to remove it. Shouldn't have been there in the first place. Were they in the right? No, right? But now, what do? You can either tell them to remove it or enter into an agreement for them to have an encroachment.
Okay, Steve, then.
Yeah, to me, this whole approach is fantastic. Like, if, I feel for these guys to think, go ahead and deal with them, because for someone who's done it on purpose, they're belligerent. They will fight tooth and nail, to keep it there and not be nice about it. So this gives us the power to say, you're on our property, move it. And I'll go, I don't want to move it, and then you go, okay, well, if you don't want to move it, it is our property. We want you to recognize that it's our property, and you can go ahead and lease that property from us. And they'll probably still go, F you, I don't want to move it, but they're caught between a rock and a hard place. They have to legally recognize that they're using our property. And I think that's a great way to deal with it.
Okay, do you have enough there, Ben?
Not a,
Oh,
I have a couple of questions.
Perfect.
As for the fees, are we good with what I suggested?
Did you get some comparators like for like Stratford or?
I kind of, I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of what the internet spit back at me, so like, I was looking at them, it's roughly what everybody is, but not everybody has them.
Cities, right?
I agree with it, because like, I think it was Windsor's, theirs was based on a hazard scale. I think you had to be an engineer to figure out exactly how to work that one out. Because they had like graphs, it was overhanging by this much, it was a D5, and you multiplied that by so much, so it was crazy. Some other ones were just like flat fees, that's how they dealt with it, some of the smaller ones, that's what's.
what we can do is we can do a bit of more of a sector scan in populations between, 25 to 100,000 population.
To me, it's kind of, the important part is them recognizing they're using our property. The money is a deterrent
Yeah.
to see if it can force them into making a decision one way or the other.
That's true.
I think the foundational ones they have to provide insurance.
That is in the,
Yeah, so the ones.
that's typical, it's $2 million liabilities.
Now we can
Yep.
play the charge, go to court, and they're the ones we actually want to get rid of. I don't think cutting of grass is contained in your definition of encroachment. It says planting of crops is, which I can't see us ever going against a farmer for that. So, but cutting of grass is a definition of an encroachment on our lands.
Which I understand. I'm more just the planning of land. So we're all here saying, yep, we agree it's not, but we do have things that are exempt from that. So otherwise, we do have, like here, roadside memorial can be erected in accordance with the following.
Also, you want to put it in as an exemption.
You don't have to exempt it. I mean, if you want us to file agreements, I guess
Let us come back with some additional language with regards, because it is a valid point.
Yeah.
So it's something that we'll look at, see if we can find some other policies around that, so.
Ben has one more question he wants to.
So I haven't mentioned, since I think we're going with the approach of collecting an annual fee based on square footage or square meters kind of thing. Do you want us to collect that money at the time we sign and that's when the first year starts? Or do we let it go for a year and collect it on the first anniversary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get there.
Just want to make sure I'm clear, that's all.
why are we making agreements? Like this is kind of the weird, what's that?
Go ahead.
No, why are they on our land? No,
Yeah.
that's more my question. Why are we allowing someone to build something on our land?
So to start off with, most of the time, we don't know.
Until someone complains?
Yep.
But then should it just not be, okay, we remove it? And
As I said earlier, most of the encroachments we asked to have removed. There are some encroachments that have poured significant money into the item, such as a potential, I don't know, foundation for a building, or a, pool, retaining wall, right? So appreciate that, again, as staff, we'll bring forward the recommendation. If council doesn't want to enter into encroachment agreement, that's up to council, but.
I think what it
Just have a-
does though is
That's all.
it puts us in a position now to be lobbied by these people, whereas if you just make it black and white, you can't build on our property. We don't have you can't pay us this much money to build on our property. It's black and white. This is our property and you don't build it.
If you tell your contractor, oh, well, just put it an extra 5 feet back.
Yeah, and I'll worry about that on you like,
Yeah.
All I can suggest is you go back and read the legal opinion from December 22nd, 2023. And it's like,
Distribute that to council.
okay, yes.
Thank you. Appreciate all the work.
but my point is, we're signing up for people to build on our property. Well, I mean, at this point, I would build on your property. I'd build my pool halfway on your property. And then I would come in and go, I need exemption. I build a pool. My kids are swimming in this, that.
No, we'll charge you.
No, that's the point, but then
County
county
could charge like $200 a year, that's way cheaper than buying an extra.
So on the previous issue tonight, you want to say you want to have the decision and everything that the staff,
No,
does.
see, you
because-
took my whole thing out of context. I didn't say I want that. What I'm saying all the time is, do you want to hand it all completely over? And do we completely understand what we've got ourselves, what we're handing over?
Yes.
I don't want to be down in the weeds on any of this. What I'm saying to you is, if I know that I can build on your property and it's $200, I've just got this land, probably at the cheapest point I'm ever going to get. And I'll keep doing that until I leave. And it's renewable every year. So maybe in 4 years, you hit a council that says, we don't care what this one did, we're getting rid of it. But you're essentially allowing people to build on your land for,
Councilor Brennan, then we'll.
I think I have to trust in the common sense, maybe the good faith of future councils, that they'd be able to distinguish between a mistake or an oversight and someone who's just a scofflaw, a person who just says, I'm just going to arbitrarily take 200 or 300 feet. And you can see that they did it knowingly. I think a future council would probably look at that and they'd say, you know what, we take a pretty dim view of that and we're not entering into an agreement and that's where it's going. So the council would make that decision.
Again, I go back to the legal opinion that was provided to you has a very good example of why we should be looking into encroachment agreements. There was a very clear example of why. So I'll send that out to council tomorrow. And just suggest you revisit that. That's it.
Next meeting is Tuesday, May 19th. Motion to adjourn. 71. Things that one sales and finance.
On 6-4.
Councilor Pam, second by Councilor Hippel, all in favor?
There we go, adjourn. 75 minutes, not bad.
Well, I guess I better buy some more round sheets.